What is it about these that make you just want to cut their guts out? But why do pumpkins get to have all the fun? I want to be able to experience life as a pumpkin. Oh, fuck yeah! This would have been a lot easier. Pumpkin Jack, the game that lets you live out all your favorite pumpkin fantasies without the mess. Why is it full of cereal? The game was made by just one person, Nicholas Masoner, receiving only help with the soundtrack and the UI for the game. The game was released on October 23rd, 2020 for all major platforms. When I first saw this game, I honestly just didn't think it was going to be that great. I don't know why I didn't think it would be that great at first, but maybe it's just because I've been burned one too many times on the eShop and I just have no hope for it anymore. So let's see if it's worth living out all your pumpkin dreams or just another rotten pumpkin in the patch. Starting out the game, you get the story told to you by these pictures on these old parchment papers, and the voice acting here is actually really good.
The devil dreamed of bloodshed, pestilence, suffering on a cosmic scale.
I mean, who doesn't from time to time? So the story is basically that the world has grown too boring and peaceful of a place for the devil, so he decides to shake things up by casting a spell to release monsters all over the world. So then the humans go and get a wizard to try and cast a spell to get rid of the monsters, and instead of dealing with the wizard himself, the devil gets Jack to deal with it, and he tells Jack that if he kills the wizard, he gets to ascend to the afterlife. So far, things are actually looking pretty good for the game. It's got a story that I'm actually interested in, and you can tell somebody put time and effort into, and I like the idea of playing as the quote-unquote bad guy of the story who's not trying to save the world, but is just kind of in it for himself. But a game is only as good as its gameplay. So let's continue on. Pumpkin Jack is a 3D platformer. The creator of the game said he took inspiration from games like Medieval and the Jak and Daxter series, and honestly, it feels like it was ripped right out of that era of N64 PlayStation 2 platformers. The jumps in the game can be a little floaty, but they're easy enough to get the handle on. Rolling was a little difficult for me too. I think it might just be a specifically me thing. But it seemed like every time I tried to roll out of the way to dodge logs, I always ended up getting hit by them and just never seemed to actually go the actual distance I thought I would. But other than that, the game controls great and it's very fluid and responsive. It's like if you were to take an old platformer and just polish up the controls to where they actually fit in a modern day. But let's go back to the story. You right away run into an owl who was sent by the devil to make sure that you're going to hold up your end of the deal. And I just love the way he's constantly furrowing his brow at you. Shortly after this, you meet another bird who is by far the best character of the game, and he mistakes you for a scarecrow that's been giving him and his friends a hard time. So he agrees to help you if you get rid of the scarecrow that's been giving him a hard time, and he helps out by becoming a long-distance attack that you can either use to attack enemies or also use to solve different puzzles throughout the game. All this happened still early enough in the game where I wasn't exactly sure what the feel of it was going to be, and I was a little bit worried that this would be the only attack that they would give you in the game, but thankfully right after this they give you a shovel that you're able to use for close quarters combat. So with the bird and shovel in tow, it's time to hunt down the scarecrow. So you come to the barn that he's supposedly hiding in and light the whole thing on fire, which leads to this really fun escape scene, but it turns out the scarecrow actually wasn't in the barn. So you head around to the back and this leads into your first boss fight. And it honestly is a really fun boss fight. It's nothing too crazy or difficult, but it's just a fun encounter. And once you defeat the boss, you also get this nice spear scythe weapon that you get to use. But from here, you travel through some mines with these sections that feel like they're ripped right out of Donkey Kong 64. These sections are a lot of fun, but some of the obstacles are really hidden and it kind of feels like a beginner's trap where you have to know they're coming up. Thankfully, you can just smash the L button and it constantly is clearing out these obstacles, but then that kind of defeats the whole point of the obstacles being there and makes it a little bit more boring. I just feel like this is a section of the game that could have been fine-tuned just a little bit more to just make this game that much better. This, though, all leads into another amazing boss fight with some really great music, too. After you defeat the boss, though, you find out that the amulet you came here for has already been taken, and that the boss was left behind by the wizard just to see you fight, and you just basically killed an innocent soul. And there's a talking sword here who wants to teach you how to fight. There's a lot going on in this cutscene, but basically, the sword is just another weapon that you get. It talks to you from time to time if you have it equipped, but it doesn't really play that much of a part in the story. It was here also that I was a little bit worried that they were going to start trying to change the story of the game to be, well, yeah, you are a bad guy, but the wizard's more of a bad guy, and you're going to kill him and end up becoming the good guy. But let's continue on the game and see where the story actually goes. I should probably also bring up too why my outfit keeps changing. There's a character that you meet early on in the game who sells you different skins, and he tells you that they're actual skins. He goes around and digs up dead people, takes their skins, and sells them to you. You use the collectibles in the game, these crow skulls, in order to buy them. Honestly though, the whole thing is kind of gross, but wait, I can be an inspector for only 20 skulls? Sold! Honestly though, I really do like how they give the collectibles an actual use and that there's something to unlock in the game. It just makes it feel like that much more of an older platformer before DLC, where there's a lot of things to unlock in games and you just didn't buy cosmetics for games. But from here we move on into the swamp and meet another shady character who says that his wife is a big fan of Jack's and he wants him to meet her. So you ride on a horse for a bit, jump on some mushrooms, and we finally meet the wife. Turns out that the only reason they wanted to meet him was to steal Jack's head to make soup, and this right here is why I say the bird is the best character of the game. Because once when Jack's head is stolen, the bird had every option to leave and just not care. He takes control of your headless body and fights to get your head back. He is a good friend. This all leads into another really fun boss fight, and I like how the witch's laugh sounds eerily similar to Gruntilda's laugh in Banjo-Kazooie. I honestly wonder if it was meant to sound similar or not, or if it was just a fun coincidence. Once when you defeat the head thieves, you get the best weapon in the game, a gun. And honestly, I wasn't expecting to be running around in this game mowing down enemies with a gun, but the American in me absolutely loves it. The next level you come across is a castle that's in a big battle between the humans and the monsters, and you just run through everybody just blasting them with your gun. And is that a gramophone? These are another collectible you find in the game, and I just love how absolutely stupid they are. You'll just be running your way through, murdering everybody, and then all of a sudden Jack just stops to dance his heart out. Moving further on into the level, there's these sections where you have to race on these hand carts, and this reminds me so much of one of the old Mario Party minigames. And the boss of this level has such a cool design, and once again is just a really fun encounter. That's one thing in this game I really wasn't expecting to like so much, was the boss fights. But all of them are honestly a lot of fun and just have fun little gimmicks to them. After this, you explore a graveyard where you have to set the 7 deadly sins free, and this all leads up to a big boss fight with Gluttony where you have to climb inside its giant gut to kill him. And with the power of the 7 sins, you create a portal up to the North Pole where the wizard is supposedly hiding at. From here, you just fight your way through these little Christmas villages and kill Santa Claus not once, but twice by blowing him up. Santa, if you're watching this, I'm sorry. It's just a game. Also, will you bring me lots of Mario toys this year? With Santa 6 feet under though, we finally get to the last portal to get to the wizard. And it leads to this section that reminds me a lot of the NES Star Wars game where you're flying the Millennium Falcon. It's just really hard to tell where you're at in relation to everything. It makes it really difficult to dodge anything coming your way. Thankfully though, it's not that long of a section and it's pretty easy to get through. This then leads you to the final fight with the wizard. And dear God, this was such a fun fight. It was by far my favorite encounter of all the games, and it definitely gets pretty chaotic by the end of it. And with the wizard defeated, Jack takes the amulet, curses the world to have monsters roam free forever, and the game ends. I was kind of expecting another fight where you have to fight the devil or something like that, but no, that's just it. The game's over. It has a clear story it wants to tell, and once when it tells that story, it's done, and honestly, I really appreciate that. It's nice that the game just had a clear direction it was going in. It didn't try and get it too convoluted. And I really like the fact that Jack just stays a bad dude the whole way through the game. I was honestly really pleasantly surprised with how much I enjoyed this game. It, in a weird way, almost feels nostalgic to me. Feels like a game that Rare would have made for the N64 back in the day, just with its style and humor. And there's just so much variety with this game. There's sections where you're riding on minecarts, where you're jumping back and forth on these boats that are sinking, where you're flying, and there's even sections where you're just playing as Jack's head itself. All this, accompanied by the weird and lovable characters in the game, just makes this one of the best platformers I've played in a really long time. And the fact that it was just made by one person is absolutely insane to me. You can just feel the love and passion that was poured into this game. I highly recommend picking up this game and giving it a try. Especially if you're not into the more scarier games of Halloween, but still want something to kind of set that holiday mood, this is a perfect game for that. But ultimately, with all of that said, I just think this game is gorgeous.